start off by making a very simple heart. For the moment, it doesn't matter how big we make it because we will work that out in a moment. So I'm going to digitize a close shape, and this one I want to be a fill. So how do we draw a heart? Okay, to start off with, I am going to draw a rectangle. Let me see. I don't want this heart to be very big. So there's my rectangle, and I'm going to pick that up and put it into outline. And go back to like being it single run. Okay, so that's my outline. Now I sort of judge the size that I want it at 100%. I'm going to zoom this in now to 200. Okay, and I am going to hit 0 to set, well, that's even bigger, isn't it? Well, I don't want it that big. Let's come down, otherwise I won't be able to cope. Oh, I got a sneezer fit. So, by drawing this heart, and it's just a rough outline, I can say, well, I know a heart starts about, well, here we go now. I want to be on digitize a closed shape. Fill. My heart starts roughly there, and it curves out and around. Ooh, and there's a point there. Oh, what a dreadful shape. So, you're probably going to do the same as me. So now we'll pick it up and we'll go to reshape, where we can see, never mind about what the fill is, where we can see all these lovely bits and bobs, and we can say, well, that's more like a heart. I want it fatter than that, if you don't mind. Maybe not that fat. And I want to bring that curve down, and that curve I want to bring it down, but I'm going to put in another. Hit the space bar, turn it to a round. Yeah, you know, that's not working well for me, is it? So, let me see. And do you know what? That wasn't a big enough dip. Oh, well, maybe that's too big a dip. So you see, once you've got, I'm going to put another, so I just clicked it and put another node in, hit the space bar to make it round, and now I'm going to just modify it a little bit, and I'm just taking off that one because I want to modify that one. Oh, I'm getting better. I'm moving that one up a little bit. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See? I could say I'm satisfied with that, and then I could say, well, maybe I'm not. And I'll put my thing back in there where it was. And I'm not worried about the flow of stitches at the moment. So I'm going to click off that and go back to select. And now I've got the proportion I need. I am going to delete that bounding box. Now I'm going back to reshape because I can still see that this side is not quite as fat as, oh, I mean, you could go on forever, couldn't you? Yeah, just bringing it in, making it more. Now that I'm happy with, so I'm going to go to select now and say I like that, and I am going to save this before I go any further as what I am going to save it on gingerbread for a moment. Heart motif. Okay. Now I've made my heart motif, I can do things with it. That's at 300%. So if I come back down to 100%, you can see it's not very big at all, is it? Right? But even so, well, I think I'll work on it a bit further. I will then take that and say, well, I don't want it to be Janome, I want it to be satin, okay? Which has put some splits in it because it's quite a big heart. So now I'm going to take it and I say, well, I quite like that, but I am going to, using shift on the keyboard, I am going to reduce that down even further. And say, because if I was doing a line of these, I don't want them to be too big. I mean, I can always make them bigger when I come to use them. So I might even come a little smaller than that. Yeah. Now, if I was doing a line of stitching, that would probably be the way that I would like it to look. So now I'm going to bring it up nice and big so that I can see it. Now I've sort of made the size that I want, yeah. I'm bringing it up nice and big, and I might even just go, not reshape it as, pick it up, not reshape it as such, but hit reshape so that I can say, well, I want the angle, actually, I don't want a 15-degree angle. I want it to be more or less straight across. All right, back to select, okay, and this is the part when we make the motif. When you click on your item, because you know every time you click on your item a bit more toolbar comes up, okay, can you see here, I'm waving around over here, there's a little motif plus button here, create motif. So we're going to hit that, and first of all, you know, you just saw me drop down and I've got Jack's motifs and all that sort of thing. Well, I am going to put in one here, and I am going to say, I'm going to call this one, well, I'm going to pick up mine, but you would write one in. I'm going to put in there, I could put on Jack's, okay, and the pattern is whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to call this Heart 3, okay? You can call it whatever you like. And then I say OK. Now what I need to do then is enter the start point. So I'll go to the widest point, which is here, and I'll come in nice and big, and I'll go to the widest point, which is here. Then I need to enter the end point, and it'll tell me that the motif Heart 3 has been created in category Jacks. Okay, well, is that so? So if I bring this out bigger and I come and I digitize an open shape, in other words a line, and I digitize it from here to there and hit enter, oh look. Now, so my motif, you see, I've just made that motif line. The one thing I would say to you is I've noticed that I've done it quite high on the heart, if you like. So I'm going to come back to this motif now and, whoops, excuse me, click off of that, select that heart again and go back and say create a motif, still in Jacks, and I'm going to call it Heart 4, okay, and this time I'm going to come halfway down where I put my start point and my end point, because that's the stitching line. Heart 4 has been created. Okay, has it really? Ah, alright then. So let's come back out. So we've got Heart 3 is up here. It's exactly the same motif, but now I'm going to draw a line bottom shape. Now, can you see, I know you can see the difference. They are a little bit more spaced up, but the top one, you can see the line was on that line, so it's going sort of like a third of the way down. On this one, the line is going halfway through. But it's like everything else. If I pick up this line, although they're a little squished, I can open up the spacing. So from 6, I can say, well, no, if I go to the actual width of it, which is 7.39, it's written above you there, 7.39, now I got them so that they are just touching. So depending on where you put your travel line, that's a third of the way down, and that's halfway through. Okay, so that's the very first lesson. That's how you make a motif. And when I open up Jack's category down here, now you should be able to see, my machine is playing me up, so it's not showing me, but I know they're in there when I start my computer up again. So for a moment, so that's making a heart motif. So I'm going to get rid of all of that and delete, and we'll start on something else. So having made our motif, okay, I'm using heart 4, so it's the one that is going through the middle of the heart. Okay, I'm going to do a circle now. I'm just going to do a nice little circle. Oh, I love that. But I want it, pick it up and say, well, no, I want to outline, if you don't mind. There. You see, now my hearts are in a, and again, I can come down and I can move that around and I can say, well, actually, I'd like them to be 8mm apart. And you see how that very quickly made them much wider. And in the same way, I could say, well, let's pick that up, duplicate it, and move it to one side, so we got 2 on the screen, okay, and say, well, this one, I'm not so sure, I think I want this to be 12mm apart. There we go. Now, that gives you a completely different, let's come back to 0, so it's all inside the screen. You see how that gives you another completely different view on it, yeah? So you can use these, obviously, and the more spacing you give it, the bigger they are. So you can use this on curly lines, straight lines, rounds, square. Well, when it comes to squares, you've got to be careful because it does tend to do something a bit weird at the corners. But obviously, if it's something that is equally divisible, it will work really well for you. So that's using it as a motif line, because remember we started off with a line, didn't we? But you can also use it in another way. So let's move it on. We could say, well, I'm doing something, let me see, I want a square, so I'm just going to draw myself a square. And I want it to be an ordinary square, so let's pick it up. See what I mean about the corners, can't you? Let's go and just pick that up and say, no, if you don't mind, just ordinary stitch line. And inside that square, well, we'll call it a satin line, actually, so it looks nice. And inside that square, I just want 1 heart. So now I can come over to my edit objects. Is that the one I want? No. My advanced digitize, and I can say motif stamp in Jack's heart 4. Because having put it in our motif library, it's now come up as a motif stamp, which means it just does 1. and it's a tiny one, as you can see for the minute. So one click and then you can twist it, the other click, and I'm going to try and keep it straight. I just put down one. I'm going to just put down one now. I can go to either move it up here on the width and the height, okay, or I can hold shift, so I'm doing it in proportion, and say, well, no, actually I wanted it bigger and I wanted it in the middle. Yeah, so see what I'm saying? When you're working within your EMB file for Hatch or digitizer 5.5, you see how it's put in a load more stitches, because when you're working in this mode, the program will fill it in for you. It's something you can't do with a machine file that you bought, but if you're making it yourself within your own digitizer program, the program itself will fill in the difference for you, okay? And I might decide, well, having looked at that, and I'll double click it so I get my twisty arms up, I am just going to say that wasn't actually, there he is, now he's more straight up, so I can use that. So you can use it as a digitizing stamp, okay? The other thing you can do, because this is now your motif, okay, say for example I drew a digitized a rectangle, and I want to do it as a fill, and I want to do it as satin, and I'm going to draw it the same size, well, more or less the same size, okay. So I'm going to say, yeah, and it's just, I'm going to pick that up. It's a satin fill. Oh, I'm on 51, so let's come up to full size. Just making sure I haven't got any other thing on. Right, fill. Okay, satin fill. And I'm saying I'm going to come over here again to my advanced digitized, and I'm going to say I want to use a carving stamp on this, and I can come down to Jacks, pick up my heart 4, yeah, and we know it's only tiny, but look. And I can escape from there now, and you can see that although well, if I come back, I could have made it bigger, I think, in the first place. So that's another way that you can use the motif that you've just brought in. Now I'm going to make another square. This is going back to normal digitize, and this time I want it to be open shape, and I want it to be a single run. So I'm just making, oh, I beg your pardon, a rectangle, right? So I'm just going to make it more or less the same size, okay? And that's just a single run. And now I want to say, well, I'm going to duplicate that, pick it up, duplicate that, so I got 2 right on top of another, and because I still want to keep the bounding box, because you see what's happening now. I picked up the second one, and I say, well, I want that to be a fill, but I want it to be a fill of my motif, not that one. I want to go and pick up the one I like, which is seeing my programs now, put them in properly, heart, okay, but the layout I don't want like that. So now I'm in a doing it within a box. Number 1, I don't think it's the right way up, but we'll, you know, I think it's still, I've still done it on a bit of a scoot, never mind. But I want the column, the flow, which is left to right, I want to be at about 10. Let's see what happens when I do that. There. Oh no, that's, you know, that's the space between them, okay. And then actually I want the column spacing to be about 10. You see, I'm making it wider. Yeah? You know, and obviously you can go on. The angle is at -2. I'm going to bring it back to 1. Now I got it straight. So can you see? Now if I bring that up big, the only thing is with this at the moment, I am getting, on a fill, I am getting this line across it. Well, I will go, we will talk about that, because obviously as a fill pattern, it does need to have some way of getting rid of that, or making it, I would prefer it to be in the middle, yeah? So let's see, I can offset it. So if I offset it by 5, there we are. Now we've got a tessellated effect. You know, so there are, you need to play with your, once you've done this sort of thing, you need to play with your work and see how you want to use it. Because if I just zoom back out now, you can see that we made right away, initially, one tiny little heart, didn't we? And now these are all the effects that we can use with this heart. We can have it as a circle layout, or straight line layout, a circle layout. We can have it as a single stamp in the middle of something else. We can use it as a carving tool in the middle of some sort of satin work, or we can have it as a fill within a square. All right. So you know, that is using what I call a fill, a filled motif. We're going to move on, and in the next lesson when we do motifs, we're going to do open line motifs. But that's a little bit more complicated because you have to make sure your stitches are flowing in the right direction. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you've now got a bit more understanding of how to make a motif. For more examples of how to use your software, be it Digitizer 5.5 Janome or whether it's Hatch 2, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and we'll see you back here on the YouTube channel soon.